welcome to Ellen Griffith-Jones.
That's right.
From Aberystwyth University, is going to chair this part of the session. Thanks, Ellen.
Thanks. Pnawn da bawb. Gobeithio bod chi wedi cael cinio blasus. Hope everybody's had a nice lunch and ready for the afternoon session. So we've got two pairs of conversations, and what we'll do in the format is that each pair will have about 10 to 15 minutes to do their thing, and then hopefully we'll have another 10 to 15 minutes at the end where we can all sort of pitch in. So we'll start with Pádhraic and Jeanette. Pádhraic from TG Ceathair, of course, in Ireland, and Jeanette Steemers from the University of Westminster. So Pádhraic, you're going to take the lead on this one, I understand.
Yes, I am. The notion, I think, of having the word structured in a sentence that has Irish and conversation may be a bit of a challenge, but I'll do my best. So what we decided we would do, quite simply, is because Jeanette's done a lot of research and I talk a lot, so we thought it might be easier if I talk very little and Jeanette tried to convey in answering my questions what her research has turned up, particularly in international distribution and the funding and production of children's television. So, first one is an easy one. What do the changes in distribution mean? Say VOD, catch-up. What does that mean for production, do you think?
Okay, well, I think there's a lot of discussion at the moment about all these online aggregators like Netflix and Amazon, who are obviously challenging schedules. But I think it's worth pointing out at the moment that we're in a transitional phase, and the majority of viewing is still of programmes made for broadcast television, viewed as linear TV. And if you look at Ofcom's research at the moment, a massive 90% of viewing is of TV. I watched either live, at 69%, 16% recorded off the telly, or 5% viewed as catch-up TV. So the amount of viewing on Netflix at the moment is quite small. I don't know what the future's going to hold, but I know that, as the youngsters are obviously changing their viewing habits. They say that, 20% of 11, 15-year-olds are watching their viewing is of YouTube. So we're in this transitional phase at the moment, which leads to a lot of uncertainties, because at the moment, of course, most of the production is funded by broadcasters and not Netflix. So that's a big issue.
So, as we've heard this morning from the Whinge-a-thon around the table, the funding structured conversation. The funding base for the broadcasters, the traditional funding base, is stagnant or in decline in our own case. So what can OTT players like Netflix and these, what can they do for production?
Well, I think the main player is really Netflix, and it's a transnational player, and I really don't think it's going to fill the gap in original production commissioning. That's not what it's about. And there are not many locally based video on demand providers. I think it's also about the nature of what they do. Video on demand. If I'm watching Netflix and I want to watch drama, it doesn't lend itself to live events, news, sport, and all those kind of things you associate with public service broadcasting or broadcasting in general, which are all about that sort of communal experience and appointment to view. I mean, I can't imagine them doing Bake Off. And by their own accounts, they don't spend that much money on production. They've got $4 billion a year content budget, and they're talking about single figures. I think it's worth reminding ourselves that PSB networks, and I'm not just talking about the BBC here in the UK, account for 85% of expenditure on first-run originations. But obviously the other important fact about that is that expenditure is declining. It's declined from to 2.4 billion now, from 3.3 billion in 2004. And, Sky has been around for a long time. It spends a lot on sport, but doesn't spend that much on originations. So, I think what would worry me is that there's the potential for inequality here, where you're beginning to see sort of certain content hived off into the pay sphere, diminishing public service especially. We've seen that with sport. I think we're going to see it with drama. We've seen it with children's content. Tim and I were talking about Sesame Street, which started off as a programme for poor kids, and now you have to pay for it on HBO in the States. So you're seeing sort of less of that public content. What I think you haven't seen yet is the extent to which things like taste-based algorithms and search-driven recommendations are going to impact commissions and sales. Not just with Netflix, but broadcasters in generally, as I think buyers become much more knowledgeable about the viewing histories and engagement of their audiences, how they're using iPlayers. We don't really know how that works yet, and I think it's a really interesting research avenue for researchers.
So we've seen changes in distribution, obviously, and this meeting is concerned to a large extent with drama as a headline. What can the changes in distribution mean for drama?
Well, Netflix and Amazon are building their businesses on drama because that's the sexy stuff that they want to do, and they're trying to reinvent that distribution space as an international space where national borders don't count. I think there are a lot of concerns about whether they're going to be able to dictate the new audiovisual marketplace. But I think it's also important to emphasise the continuities, where territoriality is a key concept, and relationships with domestic broadcasters still count. As I said before, they're the ones that commission the most. I think it would be interesting to see what the European Union does. It's moving towards this idea of a single market, but that but that sort of ignores the fact that territoriality is what I think what Enders is called the bedrock of European TV. That generates revenues for more drama investment, but it also allows broadcasters to cross-subsidise things like news and local production from the advertising generated by drama. So we don't really know what's going to happen with the European digital single market yet, but if you get more viewing shifting online, then I think that raises concerns about territorial exclusivity. We've heard a lot about concerns this morning. Any benefits? Are there benefits from all these new things? Well, last year I was talking to some distributors, and I think there are benefits from a distributor's point of view at the moment, because obviously, sometimes people are quite short-termist about these things. I think they see Amazon and Netflix as providing a new buyer of shows, a new place to go, but it's not a massive increase in buyers. There are still a lot of bottlenecks. What I think video on demand has done, it's made some European drama more desirable because it suits niche audiences. It fits that kind of data-led model of content development and funding. You can fit it to sort of personalise audience preferences. European drama has always been quite a tough sell in the international marketplace because international markets wanted long runs, they wanted standardised lengths, they wanted mass audience appeal. So video on demand kind of gets over that a bit, because before then, I suppose European drama, you could say it was too gritty, too weird, or too socio-political. So that's drama. Children's content. Yeah. What do these changes mean? Is it all bad news there too? Yeah, children's content is just bad news all around. Children's content just doesn't make money. Okay, these are little people. They don't have credit cards. You can't show them like adverts for like burgers and things anymore. So the whole funding has kind of disappeared. Local children's programming is always really highly valued by parents. If you look at the statistics, kids, they have a massive choice out there, but they tend to watch a higher proportion of local content. Commercial players will just not invest in it because there's little return. The only way that you can get them to invest in it is through regulation, and those regulations are disappearing fast. So in the UK we lost quotas. I believe in Denmark they lost those as well for the commercially funded PSBs. So the only way to really support it now is through the licence fee. Tax breaks help. They don't always help local programming because it tends to support sort of international programming. So children's programming is always going to be an expense and never a source of revenue. Yeah. But you want to do it. You want to do it, and especially if you're a small nation with a language, you want to do it. And I think it's interesting that in Ireland there is a contestable fund to support children's programming. I know that in Flanders as well there are special funding arrangements to support Flemish language programming. Tax breaks have been introduced in some countries and they attract inward investment. Disney likes it because they can do American programs here. I'm not quite sure whether it really benefits domestic production. Quotas in this country, the producers desperately want to see quotas reimposed on ITV, but it ain't going to happen. There's no political will for it. ITV doesn't want it back. There's been talk about like levies on Google and stuff like that. It would be great, but it's just not going to happen. And the big thing here in the UK at the moment is this idea, particularly for children's programming, and I'm so scared it's going to happen, is contestable funding, where you take licence fee funding off the BBC and you establish a separate fund, and then you have all that sort of paraphernalia about who's going to administer it, and it becomes sort of like another quango. I don't want to close it off completely because I've been speaking to Pádhraic and I know that it works in Ireland to a certain extent. They have the Sound and Vision Fund and they have another scheme in Northern Ireland as well. So I think that there are ways that it can work. I'm not sure that it will work for the UK.
Okay, just as a final note for myself, since you referred to it, we do about 5 hours a day of kids' content every day. Now, 80% of that is revoiced. That is to say, global brands, Dora the Explorer, SpongeBob, all of those, revoiced into Irish. And it's very interesting that brings in an audience for us who are quite comfortable knowing that when they come to go to a movie, for instance, it's likely to be in the other language. Although we have actually revoiced 2 cinema release movies from those 2 particular brands as well. So there seems to be this acceptance at the kids' level that having a Dora in Irish is not alien to having a Dora the Explorer in English.
What do they do with the Spanish bits?
It's the DVD option.
Right,
it comes in whatever language you want. We revoiced the whole thing into Irish. But what's interesting is when we've done the cinema releases, they've been probably better attended than some of the English language ones because the kids learned this language at school, but they clearly want an outlet for the language that isn't to do with just school. So entertainment, it works really well.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with that. I mean, I think that there's often an issue, particularly with politicians, when they do stuff like that. They want it to be educational, and actually kids, they want entertainment, and it doesn't matter what language it's in, but they don't want to be they don't want to be taught Irish. They want to have a great programme that sort of appeals.
And interestingly, and to end on a sort of a historical note, when UTV had the ITV franchise for Northern Ireland, and there was a sort of political pressure for them to do something in Irish, they actually did Thomas the Tank Engine revoiced into Donegal Irish, and it was a huge success. And they never did anything after that again. So there's the good news and the bad news. That's it from us.
Yeah. And I just want to say as well, I think S4C has got a fantastic reputation now for children's programming. And I found this statistic, and I'd like somebody to find out whether it's true. I read in the Ofcom report that they produce 672 hours in Welsh. Now, I'm not sure whether those are originations or whether it's dubbed originations, which is more than the BBC, 579 hours. So I'd like to know it's both.
I can't quite be sure of that, but there's a lot of origination.
Yeah.
We do a lot of the dubbed.
Yeah.
Like
you do more origination than we do.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'd say it's a combination.
Yeah, it's a combination.
And the other thing about kids' programme, of course, is the economics is a bit different because you can have masses more repeats because you get a new generation of kids every 2 or 3 years. So there's not such a big incentive to do that.
To make it a viable option for the commercial sector still?
No.
Okay.
The thing that really killed it was the junk advertising fee ban, and of course nobody's going to argue for that to come back again. It ain't going to happen.
Not publicly.
Children's programmes they're not in prime time, so they don't count towards you probably know them.
Well, because we'd also on the British system bar, measure under 4s. So you're going to get zero this was a big deal for S4C. And for those of you, someone was saying, people are obsessed with metrics and numbers. You're not going to get an audience because even if 100% of the under 4s are watching, you're not going to register on the bar.
Yes.
So
yes.
Well, there are other ways. I mean, you make your money as well, but not every show's like that. Thomas the Tank Engine, I mean, it makes all its money from the licensed merchandising. 90% of their income is from that.
So. Okay.
Well, thanks both. Hey, what's a challenge now for everybody else? Not always stretch your time, but...
Do we keep the time?
Yeah.
I'm a newsreader.
Oh, wow.
3 minutes under. Great.
Great.
Keep it to time.
You're good.
So, thanks both for that. That was really interesting, and we'll pick up on some discussion later too. So we'll move over now to Howell William from AIM and Royal Television Society.